I know this may sound schizo, but there's just too many connections. Something is happening. In 1986, Studio Ghibli released a film, Castle in the Sky. The movie revolves around a floating island known as Laputa. Now, the story of the movie isn't what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about the ideas of where this came from. Now, Miyazaki got this idea from a 1700s book called Gulliver's Travels. It was written by Jonathan Swift. In the book, Jonathan Swift describes a floating island known as Laputa. Now, okay, when I say this video is schizo, I'm not trying to say that Laputa is real, okay? Laputa is not real. In fact, the name Laputa is a play on words. It's Spanish for, something naughty, something not appropriate. Yeah. What I'm trying to talk about is the Laputans in this book are portrayed as aristocracy, upper class, scientific experts, and technological geniuses. And they rule over everyone else with their genius. Jonathan Swift was a satirist, and he was satirizing the British aristocracy and British academia of the time. The Laputans rule over a land known as Balnabarbi, or Balnabarbi. It's on the surface. And in that land, there is a city called Legato. And in the city of Legato, there is an academy known as the Academy of Projectors. And they do all sorts of really stupid scientific experiments. I mean, when I say stupid, I mean useless stuff. Like, what if we could turn poop into food? Really, really bizarre stuff. But their crowning achievement is a machine known as the engine. It is a thinking machine that writes all their books and all their scientific literature and does all the difficult calculations for them. Remember, this book was written in the 1720s. This is before they even had anything even close to a computer. But this isn't simply talking about computers. This is basically AI. Yeah. Jonathan Swift predicted AI before we even had any electronics. The machine was entirely mechanical. And yeah, it was a satire of automation at the time that was slowly happening. Remember, this is before the Industrial Revolution even, before the steam engine was really a thing. And the people pushing for AI are a lot like the Laputans. They believe that AI should rule everyone's lives, and by extension that they should rule over everyone's lives. That we are smarter than you, so you should have all your thinking done by a computer instead. That is, by our computer programs that we control. Trust in our algorithms. We can curate everything to you, because we will get to know you better. And I don't think it's a coincidence that one of the watershed moments for AI was the Ghibli filter. Coming after Ghibli, the very studio that created this movie, the movie that was based in part on this book, the book that predicted the very technology and the very world that we are living in right now. Now, Studio Ghibli is a studio that creates movies that celebrate the simple life, the simple human life, and the potential that human beings can have with their talents and skills. And they're also a studio that celebrates the beauty of nature. And generative AI is a slap in the face to both of these things. Generative AI takes away human creative power and human potential, puts it all in a computer, turning humans from creators into passive consumers. The other thing it does is it is wasteful. ChatGPT's data centers waste more water in a week than Disney World. And I know people will say, I know the AI shows will say, well, food wastes more water. If you eat a hamburger, you're wasting more water. But food is food. Food is something that humans need to survive. AI-generated images are useless. They serve no purpose whatsoever other than taking away human creative power and wasting water. It's like how cigarettes only serve the purpose of giving you lung cancer. There is zero upside to AI art or AI media in general. There is zero upside to it whatsoever. It is only a net negative. But who are some of the biggest opponents of the spread of AI? It is none other than the internet artists community, which I have made videos about. It is the anime fans. It is the furries. It is the artists. It is the weird artists too. But we are all artists, and we must all stand together against this threat. One of the biggest forms of illustrated media right now is anime and manga. I have talked about this before to death in my videos. And it is not a coincidence that this is one of the things that they are coming after. And I'm serious when I say I'm not trying to convert people, but I believe that anime and manga are an important part of the Next Jesus movement. I've said this before. The Next Jesus movement won't specifically be about music. It will be mainly about art. About Christian art made by Christians, not made by computers. Made by real Christians. And there is a youth revival happening slowly. But what is one of their biggest songs? One of the main songs of the youth revival movement today. It is a song called Yeshua by Jesus Image. This song was originally a Brazilian song called Quero Conhecer Jesus. It was written by a Brazilian man named Alessandro Villas-Boas. If you've been around the Latin American internet community, you know that anime and manga were very popular in Latin America, Mexico and Brazil and such, long before they were popular in the US. I know this sounds insane, but this song contains the same 7-note structure as Kimi no Sete from Castle in the Sky. And Alessandro Villas-Boas was a teenager when this movie was released in Brazil. That would have been 2005. Now, that's not as early as the other anime I was talking about, but he's a young man. And the timing works. It is very likely that he based the song off of the melody from that song in that movie. It is very likely. I don't have any confirmation, but it is very likely. And I already made a video about this, but I'm going to mention this. In 2015, God told me to learn Japanese and to learn to draw, to make manga. And I've been studying Japanese almost every day ever since. In 2017, we went on a trip to Japan. We stayed in the missionaries' church and we helped to remodel it. That's what the trip was about, mainly. And the year in between, 2016, I had a dream. This was the same night of the day that I had seen the movie Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind for the first time. It was right after I'd seen the movie. The dream was set sometime in the future. When I say future, I mean sometime in this decade or the next decade. It wasn't in 2016. Because I was older and my parents were older. But anyway, in the dream, I was in a train station with my parents in Japan. And in the crowd, I saw none other than Hayao Miyazaki. And I walked up to him and said, "Greetings, Mr. Miyazaki. I am a big fan of yours." And he cried. He bawled. And he hid his face. And he said, "Don't say my name. I don't want anybody to know who I am." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I regret most of my movies. I regret most of my movies I want to turn away from my Shinto worldview and follow Jesus. And then I woke up crying. Now, when I first had the dream, I assumed he was talking about some of the Shinto themes that he has in some of his movies. But in hindsight, I think this dream was about something else. In 2025, when the Ghibli filter thing happened, I feel that now I understand what this dream was about. He was regretful of most of his movies because they took so much time to make, and now these companies come out with this computer that can just pump out Ghibli-style images instantaneously with no effort and no creative passion. He was regretting, in the dream, he was regretting his life's work because he's been replaced with a machine. That's what the dream was about. And I even saw some pro-AI people generate an image of him crying to make fun of him. And when I saw the image, I could feel something really, really dark. There was a completely wicked, evil, dark presence surrounding that image. It was not long after the whole Ghibli AI thing happened, and when I saw it, I was reminded of this dream. But as I said, there is a youth movement rising, a youth revival, and one of the main songs is a song that sounds very similar to a song from an anime. And what do the youth like? What do the youth really want? They want anime. They don't want AI. They want real anime and real manga. And the internet artist community, that is one of the biggest opponents of AI, the internet artist community is influenced in large part by anime and manga. And God told me last year, I believe he told me this, that the next Jesus movement will be about art. The internet artist community, the people who are ridiculed repeatedly by folks on the right, by folks on my side. Oh, you like cartoons? You have hobbies? Hobbies are for children. You draw cartoon animals? That must mean you think you're an animal. Artists are woke, blue-haired weirdos. We gotta replace artists with AI because AI can make everything super duper based. But this is an affront to God. God created the world. He created nature, he created man, and he created man's creative abilities. This is the stuff that Ghibli celebrates. And God wants us to create things. He doesn't want us to tell a computer to make everything for us. And not only is the song that is the anthem of the youth revival similar to a song from an anime, it's similar to a song from an anime that was partially based on a book that predicted this. Gulliver's Travels was a book that I read diligently as a teenager. And I don't know why. It was on the Classics app, which was an iPhone app at the time. I know it's not pictured here, but it's in there. I just can't find a picture of it on the shelf. And I read it. Yes, I read the whole thing when I was a teenager. But after the Ghibli thing happened this year, the AI Ghibli thing happened, it wasn't immediately after, it was like a week or so into it. I remembered the engine. It came back to me from the depths of my memory, and it clicked. Did God warn Jonathan Swift about this nearly 300 years ago? Everything that God created us for, our creativity, our work, our play, our social lives, everything, they want to replace all of that with machines. They want to create a new God that does everything for us and meets all of our needs. A universal intelligence, a artificial super intelligence. Such a future would be a dream world. Nothing would be real. It would be a post-truth future. Would it be like the Matrix? Maybe not literally, but in the mind it would be, because everybody's desires would be catered to instantly. Nobody would create anything for themselves or for others. In the movie Kiki's Delivery Service, there is a scene where Kiki helps these old ladies bake a pie using an old-style wood-burning oven because the electric oven broke down. And the message of this scene is, no matter how much technology advances, the tried and true methods will always work. Also, in the book Gulliver's Travels, Gulliver travels to a lot of weird, non-existent countries, such as a country of tiny people, a country of giants, a floating island, and a country ruled by a floating island, a country inhabited entirely by intelligent horses. But there's only one country that he travels to that is a real country. What do you think it is? Yeah, that's what it was. The very country that inspires the internet artist community today, and the country that has a better conception of art than both the Western traditionalists, who are too elitist and only care about aesthetics and perfection, and the Western modernists who think anything can be art.